Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Escape Pod podcast. This week, I am joined by the wonderful Chris from Lorcana Chats, or Questing for Lore on Twitter. Is his handle. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Yourself?
I am doing pretty all right. So today's been an interesting day. Well, this week's been an interesting week for me. But I missed
Yeah.
missed yesterday for some reasons I've talked about. So, or 2 days ago when this comes out, because it's come out on Thursday. But today, as of recording this, was the second ever Lorecast. I don't think, did they do one for set two? No.
No. This was the second one. Yeah.
Yes, this is the second ever Lorecast. So we're definitely going to dive into some of that. And but first, give all the listeners a little background on how you started in the Lorcana scene and how you started Lorcana Chats.
Oh man. Let's see. So I remember reading about Lorcana whenever like the first chapter was coming out. I heard about it. I think I heard about it a little late though. I wasn't like, a lot of the people that I talked to on the show, they're like, "Oh yeah, we started, creating content even before the first chapter was released." And I was like, "That's serious dedication right there."
Yeah.
Um, but they were talking about the game and everything and putting content out. I know Citizens of Lorcana was like one of the
Yep.
first ones that was out there. But I think I came into it. It was after the release of the first chapter, but before the second set.
Okay.
And I remember reading about it, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds really cool." Because growing up, I was a huge Disney fan. I mean, still
Right.
am. Um, but it was great to see a TCG that kind of married the two things, right? I had played a little bit of Magic back in the day, but not, I didn't really get like super involved. I didn't get into the community. I just kind of played a couple of rounds with friends every once in a while,
Hmm.
and then that just kind of faded. And I was like, okay,
Right.
TCGs, man. I went off on video games and other board games and stuff like that. Um, but then this popped up, and I was like, I think I could really get into this. This sounds really cool. And so whenever the Rise of the Floodborn came out, I
Yep.
actually went and picked up all the starter decks. And I think I got a couple of booster packs at that time. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I got
Yep.
my kids to kind of play with me, and
Hmm.
they're not as into it as I am. Unfortunately, otherwise I would have people to play with all the time. Um, but we tried it out, and and I started really looking around, and I was like, okay, there's a community around this. It's
Yeah.
very very early, but there's a whole lot of people out there, and there were already other podcasts and videos and stuff that were out there talking about the cards in the game. And so I was like, okay, I could get involved in this. And
Yeah.
so I think I made my Questing for Lore account maybe, oh god, it's probably only been like 8 or 9 months ago, really. And started that up and really dove in head first. I
Yeah. I was gonna say. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
Um,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember a while ago you made a comment on one of my posts, and I was like, I have to get you on the podcast. And then it was like everything was getting shuffled around, and I was just like, one day I saw you popped up again, and I was like, perfect. I'm like, I can ask him.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been so great because, the community overall has been so welcoming. I think part of it probably has to do with the fact that it's, kind of Disney. Everybody's
Mhm.
a little bit more friendly, it seems like. We've got
Yeah.
lots of different kind of content creators already. We have the people that sit down and analyze the cards and look at the different deck possibilities and everything and
Right.
really go deep on that stuff. And then you have people that are more on my end of the spectrum that that just like to sit down with people and have a chat, just sit down and talk to
Yeah.
them,
Yeah. Like
find out
a
about
fun
them.
Lorcana chat.
You know, yeah, and it's nice. I think what's it called on the Magic side? Oh, Humans of Magic, I think, is the account that has been doing a similar kind of thing for that game, where they
Mhm.
sit down with people that are part of the community over there, and learn about the people, right? Instead of, hey, what do you think about this card and the meta, and what about this latest thing in the community or something. I we touch on that kind of stuff on my show, but it's really just more about getting to know people and really
Yeah.
sharing backgrounds. I actually yesterday talked to Kate and Sharon. Kate is the one that makes the cool little lore counters, the spinny
Hmm.
ones with the gears and
Yes.
everything. And Sharon is the creative director for Hummingbird Studios that does a
Oh,
lot of like
nice.
t-shirts and hats and
Hmm.
stickers and all sorts of stuff. And it was really cool to be able to sit down and say, hey, what's your background? What do what drew you to Lorcana and everything? And to really be able to get to know them and then be able to turn around and share that with the community is
Right.
really nice. So,
Yeah, I mean, the spinners that they do are honestly amazing. I mean, they do them for I see they do them for Star Wars and they do tokens for Star Wars, and it's just like a
yep.
lot of work I know goes into those, and that takes a lot of time. So they're very impressive. Something I need to invest in and stop using a spin down D20. Spin down D20 is
Oh,
ridiculous.
the D20s are the worst. Yeah, I started out using one
D20s.
of those. It's
I
yeah.
used a D20 until someone cheated against me, and I ended up losing an entire set. Like this was like set
Oh,
one. I was like at 17. I went to Quest for Game, and I went to go move it, and they were like, "Oh, you were at 16." And I'm like, "No, I wasn't." And it went back and forth, and then they ended up winning, and then they won the next game, and it was like, "Okay, whatever. I was gonna win."
no, that's rough. Ugh.
So that was actually around the time I started to get out of Lorcana because it was like that and it was expensive. I mean, set
Yeah.
one was very
Well, yeah.
expensive when it first came out. So I think I've told the story before, but I almost got out of Lorcana completely because it was like I couldn't get the cards I wanted for the deck I wanted to build, and it was just super expensive, and you couldn't find product. So I'm like, I think I'm
Mhm.
just gonna call it quits. And I sold off all my stuff I got from like finding packs at a Pokemon regionals in
Oh no.
Pittsburgh, everything but the deck I was working on because I'm like, I'm gonna keep this deck in case there's a chance I can find anything. And my one
Okay.
friend who was really heavy into collecting it at the time, he was like, I'm gonna give you everything you need for this deck. He's like, because I want you to keep playing the game.
Nice.
So he kept me. Shout out to Andy. He kept me playing the game, and eventually turned into this now, where we're almost 5 sets deep, and
Hmm.
I've spent a lot of money on cards. Not shockingly, not only I've spent $3 on set four products so far, and those were
Oh,
singles for my
that's
deck.
actually pretty impressive. Yeah,
I
I was gonna say.
tried to stay away from buying product. I will probably cave and buy a box, like I
Yeah.
normally do. I like to buy one of everything from a set, so I like to get a trove. I like to get a. I want to get an Illumineer's Quest to play it with my
Mhm.
friends, and I'll get a box because I like to always have those extra commons and uncommons that people always need when I go to my leagues.
Right,
But like
right.
I say a lot too. During set three, I kind of didn't play all the time. I play a lot on Pixelborn or online, but like I just didn't get to play because I was always busy. I was finishing up my associates and I was working, so it was like, and I work weekends. So starting July, I'm just starting to get
Ah,
my Sundays back. But it's
yep.
like I've just been so busy on the weekends when most of my leagues are run that I haven't really gotten to any leagues. So it's like now that I'm finally like I'm sitting down and finally getting to play again. Like I played at my Pokemon League the other day. I played a couple of games of Lorcana. And it was like I just had a lot of fun. I'm like excited. I'm excited for set four championship so I can win and
Hmm.
then trade all my stuff away to get set three set championship stuff because I like Stitch and I
Yeah,
didn't get to
yeah.
compete in any of them because I was busy. So we're gonna get an Ursula mat and try to trade someone for it.
There you go. There you go. That's the way
That's
to
my
do it,
goal.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's funny because, there's a I don't know if it was just because it was like the first big set championship thing. But there was so much hype around the Stitch
Yeah.
stuff, you know. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to get a Stitch, I got to get the mat and everything." It's interesting to see that there doesn't seem to be quite as much energy around the Ursula
The
stuff.
Ursula. Yeah,
Um,
I think everyone was very excited about it from the beginning and they got to play it. And I think also it excuse me, it being the one that was right before Atlanta. I mean, it was the lead up to their first
right.
big DLC. I think everyone wanted to do it to practice, but I think also everyone wanted to play in it because it was the closest thing we had at the time to a competitive thing.
Yep.
Now that there's these DLCs, I think people will still go. People want the Enchanted. Um, and unfortunately, with that being the fact that there will be scalpers that go and play at these just to sell the cards,
Yep.
but I think there will be less and less. There will be some people who choose not to go because they're going to go to a DLC instead, or they don't feel like maybe people will be nice and decide to stop scalping Lorcana and go scalp Star Wars or something. Go scalp another Disney
I
card.
think there's always going to be people like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
But
mean, there's it with that with everything. I mean, Pokemon's at the point where they abundantly print all of their product, and there's still like a beginning of set releases like scalpers for that game, and it's like,
oh yeah,
why? And people pay for it, and it's like you can go anywhere like a week, like on physical in store release day, and find it for retail or honestly under because stores get so much of it. Why
hmm
pay early for stuff? So like, Lorcana's been getting better at that, and it's going to take time. I mean, we've seen during I think it was in set 3 or maybe it was set 2, people were finding Stitches in packs, and now I see people are finding Ursulas, and everyone's like, oh, that's terrible quality production. It's like, well, every card, a lot of companies are using these same printers for their cards. Like, they're trying to get multiple things done at once, and sometimes that happens. Like, it will get fixed over time, but when you come in and these companies like Wizards and Bandai makes Yu-Gi-Oh, I think, right? Yeah, whoever
I
makes
think so.
Yu-Gi-Oh and the Pokemon company, like all these people using these printers, you can't expect like Lorcana just because they're Disney to be able to jump on top of these printers because they're really not Disney. It's Ravensburger who's doing it. If
Right,
it was
right,
like, so that's the thing is people don't understand sometimes the business aspect of it, and it's like you can complain all you want about not having product, but at the end of the day, they can't. It's kind of out of their hands. They're doing their best for a lot of it.
right. Well, and you also have to consider. I mean, they're printing these cards like I think we're getting set 5, but I think I heard somewhere that they're already working on like set 7.
Yeah,
So this is all like even set 6, and maybe even like set the beginnings of set 7 are already working with the printers. This is
yeah,
not something that like they printed last week. This, the set
right.
5 to be able to produce this and mass distribute it, they did this months ago, to package it all up and be ready. So this is not, it's not a small undertaking.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to get ahead of the curve. They knew in set 1 they knew I think they knew going into set 1 people were going to want to play this game because it's Ravensburger behind it, and Ravensburger did a great job with Villainous and all their other games.
Right.
But I think that during the first set, they assumed people would be skeptical, and they printed what they could, and they did that, and they realized midway through set 1, kind of how I feel like Star Wars has looked the past couple weeks that I've seen people playing it is like, oh crap, people are interested in our game, and our game is actually like a lot, like it's really good, like we thought it would be, and everyone's loving
Yeah.
it. We don't have product. And,
Right.
at that point, they can't just throw some on the printer because they're already working on set 2 and 3. They were already working on
Yep.
those sets. So there wasn't much that they could do there. They were just kind of stuck going, hey guys, sorry. And it's like people got upset, but it was like it's that's what happens when you start a new game. You learn from your mistakes. I mean, every new
Yep.
card game has its
Definitely.
bumps. People were saying stuff about how Star Wars does this. And like, yeah, I like how Star Wars puts 2 starter decks in one box. It's the same price as buying 2 starter decks, but also
Mhm.
Lorcana gives you a pack in yours. Also, Lorcana gives you troves, and they did gift sets, which they'll probably bring
Yep.
back. Star Wars, it's either you buy a box or you don't get product. Like they don't really have another way for you to get product
Really?
that isn't a box.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay. I didn't
that's the
realize
biggest
that.
problem a lot of people have. I've seen in my local community, in my locals that play Star Wars, is like unless you have a box or a store near you has a box, you aren't getting product because they only do
Huh.
boxes. And it's like Lorcana did the troves, they did their gift sets, they did the starter
Yeah.
decks even. And not that people are going to want to keep buying starter decks, but at the end of the day, they're abundant. You can walk into any store and find set 1 starter decks now, and you can find all the way from set 1 to
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Like I said, I only really started in Floodborne, but I remember, I've heard the stories, the saga of the first chapter, people trying desperately to find content or not content, to find the
Product.
cards, to find
Mhm.
to find the product and everything.
Yeah, I
And
just
it was just crazy.
yeah, I remember my me and my old co-host Rob, who's now doing Wanna Lorcana.
Hmm.
Um, Me and him, I remember set 1. Like it was really weird because like he was like when the game was like a long time ago when it was happening. Like a lot of people weren't a huge fan of it. My one friend really was, and ended up flip flopping. Like Rob ended up becoming a huge fan of it for a game he didn't think he'd be a huge fan of, because before he only played
Right.
Pokemon and Final Fantasy, and we would draft the unsets of Magic. So like
Hmm.
he didn't know, and then I don't remember what he did to get into the game. I don't know if he just bought a box because he was excited for it, or
Hmm.
someone had like a starter deck and demoed it for him, but he was in love with it. And I was already excited for the game, being I know you I was telling you before we started and you were a little disappointed with me. I haven't seen a lot of Disney movies. I was still excited for it because the game looked fun.
Hmm.
So I remember we drove over an hour downstate in New York to a place called Kerwin's, and we like stood in line and we bought boxes. And we did the same thing for set two.
Oh,
Thankfully, although
wow.
Kerwin's is a great game store, I haven't had to do that since. Um,
Right.
but I remember just driving and they'd get restocks and we'd drive down there just to get a box apiece, and we'd pack people in his car and we'd all drive down just so we could get more boxes. And it was like just so we get a
Yeah.
product to play the game. Because I know, like at the time, I've mentioned this before talking to Breezy. Like the green Cusco used to be $10 a piece, and that was like I played Lemon
Yeah.
Lime when I started, so I needed Rapunzel's, which I never had. I think my friend loaned his to me, and I slowly bought them off of him for half of TCG player price. So those and Maleficent's, that's how I got those. Were from my friend. I just slowly paid him back.
All right.
um,
All right.
but it was like Cusco's and all that stuff was super expensive. So it was like at the time, it was very hard for people to get into the game.
Hmm.
And I know I keep comparing it to Star Wars because I keep looking at my Discord and there's a server there for it. But like the only nice thing with them and their product issues is you only need three of a card, which I don't like three of a card, 50 card decks. I think it's a little weird. But
Oh, 50 card decks. Okay. Huh.
yeah, with a 10 card sideboard. But
Okay.
the only thing that makes it better is then you're buying less stuff. But like Star Wars felt like a flip flop to me because when I was looking at price, because I got into the game kind of how you got into Lorcana. I started playing Star Wars like halfway through, or like recently, just because
Hmm.
it looked fun. And I have a problem with playing different card games. Um, so what's a fourth card game? Um, but it was just like I looked at prices, and when this game first came out, there weren't really product issues, and people, and I mean it was FFG, so people had their prior gripes with them, but like there were cards
Hmm.
that are now $40 cards that used to be $8 cards, and it's like funny looking at it because that's never going to happen again for like legendary cards that are hard to pull, because at the time people didn't know it was going to be good and they didn't know if the game was going to be good. Now that there's a
Yeah.
base behind it, like, but like Lorcana, I've always said since Lorcana's gotten their stock issues together, there's Lorcana has one of the best, like other than I think Pokemon, one of the best singles markets to get into the game, because you
Oh, yeah.
have I did this calculation the other day. We have there's I think there's less than 10 I think cards that are over $30
Hmm.
in format currently, or in Lorcana. There's Diablo but it's just like, actually I guess I can just click all the boxes on TCG player to look at this to check. This does help,
There's stuff
although
like
it pulls up
Saggy.
2 pages of Enchanted.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I
so
mean,
there's
obviously the Enchanted, right?
right, but like just basic get into the game kind of cards.
Hmm.
It's here we go. So you've Tragic Beast,
Right.
Diablo, Robin Hood, Rapunzel, Green Ursula, Maleficent. That's 6 cards over. Well, Maleficent's like $29, so is Ursula. We'll say that's 6 cards at $30, and then there's Belle, Strange but Special, which went up like last set because I remember getting those when they were $10 and they shot up because they were really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Belle's Sisu's are 20, Mufasa's 16. Oh wow, Maui's are expensive now. But like after
Yeah. They're
Mufasa
pretty
and
pretty bad.
like after Mufasa, everything is $10, $11. So it's
Hmm.
like you can build a pretty powerful deck for a reasonable, and especially red. Like red doesn't run. I don't see a lot of red lists run Maleficent anymore. Some do, some don't.
Nope. Nope.
Um, some run the
It's
legendary
just
Sisu,
it's
but
such an
like
like not monetarily
yeah,
expensive, but ink wise, it's so
oh,
expensive.
100%. I think expensive.
Yeah.
Maui went up. I'm actually shocked to see that Maui went up. I'm not shocked, but I am shocked. I'm just used to Maui not being expensive. Um,
That's a good card. I mean, it's useful
yeah,
in the right circumstances.
and I mean everything fluctuates. Enchanted prices fluctuate so much. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw. Enchanted from set one, I remember when I was doing when I was still doing turn for two, we looked at all the enchants. We were like, oh, Stitch Carefree Surfer is 160. That's a good price for it. And I think we were talking about Maui being cheap too. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
should really pick up Surfer Stitch because I want to have a collection of all the Stitches. I'm like, I should pick up Surfer Stitch when it was 160 or whatever. And I'm like, the lowest I can see on TCG Player is 135. I'm like, I'm like, I should, but I probably shouldn't. I'm like, it's a lot. And now it's like $300. So I regret it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how card
It's
games
rough.
work. It's like stocks. That's how I
Well,
equate
and
card games.
there's even some of the enchanteds that, like you think, oh, these are going to be amazing, and it comes out that, it tops out at like
Yeah.
100, or maybe even a little bit less than that. And it's like, oh, well, that's kind of disappointing,
Yeah, that's how I felt
But
about my Pete.
then, you wait 5 sets. You wait, 2 or 3 sets later, and it could be a whole different story.
Yeah.
It's exactly like you said. It's like the stock market. You
Yeah.
just kind of have to hedge your bets sometimes. I'm sitting here looking. I've managed to pull, what is this? 3 enchanteds? No, 4 enchanteds now.
Nice.
Um, and and some of them, like I've got Cusco's Palace, which I think might be like $60 now or something for the
Listen,
enchanted.
get it signed by the
But
Llama King himself, and it's worth a lot
I
more.
know, I know. I was so hoping he didn't get to make it to Atlanta. So I was there, and I was like, I'm taking it with me just in case, but he unfortunately had to cancel it last minute,
Yeah.
But it would have been good to meet him and get
Yeah.
that signed. But it's crazy the variance on the prices on these things, and it's
Yeah.
all
I mean,
demand and
go ahead.
everything.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
also what gets played. I mean, my girlfriend's favorite character or favorite movie is Rapunzel, like I said before we started. So like I've given her almost every Rapunzel in the game. I haven't given her Gifted with Healing because I only have
mhm,
four of those and they're all in my deck. But like
right,
the Snuggly Duckling's $53, and it's like I don't mind spending that kind of money on a card that she's gonna cherish because she loves that movie.
right, right.
And it's like, and those, I mean, a lot of the locations are cheaper, and it's like some of them are decently, like Pride Lands being $63. I'm just seeing this now, and it's in my Steel Song deck, which is Zach Biven's Steel Song deck that I've added two cards to.
Okay,
But seeing that it's like $70 makes me want to buy them. Will I? Probably not, because that's a lot of money to spend on a card. But
it
like
is.
I traded for Pete. I only have pulled one enchanted, and it was the Hades from set one. And when set two came out,
That's a good
I
one. I like that
built a
one.
deck, and the deck had Pete in it. And someone had it one day, and I'm like, I don't know if it, because at the time Pete was more expensive, and they were like, I don't care about value. They're like, if you want it, I want the Hades, you want the Pete, and it's still sitting in a lemon lime deck that I need to update. But like,
Mhm,
I still think that's one that like I don't even think it, I think the value of the card playability wise will go up over time because I think that card's kind of nasty, and I think it's very
mhm.
slept on. Being that it has ward when you play an action, it gets +2, and when it has seven or more, you get +2. Which the seven or more is tough, but like I paired it with the queen, so you'd shift queen turn two. You would quest with it. You could cheat Pete out with
Ah,
lanterns, or no, actually, I
okay.
use just in time to cheat Pete out. But you could
Okay.
play Pete like with lanterns or just in time. But when you turn with the queen, you can give him +4, which gives him the 7 to turn for 4.
Right,
And I
right.
mean, decks
Huh.
are a little more in depth now, but like during set two, that was a nasty combo because there wasn't, unless you were playing
Yeah.
red, there wasn't a ton of ways to deal with characters like that.
Right, right.
But
That's pretty sneaky. I don't know if I ever saw that kind of thing.
there's just so many, and it's that's the thing with Lorcana that's fun too is there's so many undiscovered decks. I mean, Joshua Paltry's a local to my to one of my leagues. Well, he's local to my area. So I've known him for a while, and like he was playing like set two. He was playing uh Emerald Sapphire, and it was like this really cool deck, and it was like it wasn't something a ton of people you'd see play on like ink decks, but it was just something like that worked really well, and it was a lot of fun. And
Mhm.
that was a deck that when he won, it was like that's not a deck you expected to win.
Right, right.
But like that's the cool thing with Lorcana is you can build a deck around the meta, and that might not necessarily be what wins a tournament. It could just be something that it has a decent matchup into everything, and it just ends up relying on the player, or something where you just hit a lot of good matchups and you have a good time. I mean,
Yep.
I other than maybe Toronto, don't think I'll make it to a DLC this year, which is unfortunate, but
Mhm.
they're all so far away.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like I'm hoping to go to Gen Con to staff for Pokemon, but like they ask you what days you want off, so it's like I can go do Lorcana events and stuff and just go and hang out, and it's like
Oh, nice.
that would be the only time I get to meet anyone because it's like everyone met in Atlanta, and
Right.
I didn't get to go to Atlanta because I had other stuff I had going on, my family. But like, it was just really cool to see everyone getting together because it was like it's just not something that in Chicago because it just everyone had looked like they had a great time and like
Oh, yeah.
everyone seemed
Yeah.
like they had a lot of
Well,
fun. The worst thing I saw people complain about was the prize wall, and they fixed that. They listened to people. Like that's the
right.
best thing
Yep.
about Ravensburger and PPG's organizing it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
And PPG, like they listened to people. I saw they did an announcement before Chicago started. Like they did what they could to fix the issues, and they're like they care about the players. It's not oh this is what we decided. Like it's end all be all.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, and it's so great to have a company like Ravensburger that is actually, I mean, they're in the discords. They're, sitting like even on B Squared's watch party kind of thing today.
Yeah,
Rochelle showed up and she was,
yeah,
talking in the chat on Twitch. It's so great to see them being so engaged and really
yeah,
listening to people and making those changes. I know, logistically speaking, to be able to make some of those changes in that short period of time between Atlanta and Chicago is not the easiest thing in the world. You have to like revamp how you're doing the prize wall and recalculate how many tickets people can realistically get with the side events and everything. And it's really cool. And like I said, I haven't been a part of really a TCG community before.
right,
But just knowing that from the start, the company is there and they're listening is huge for me. It's not just some nameless entity that has their name on the box. It's
right,
actual community engagement. And they've hired tons of people for their community team. Since like I think Rochelle and like one other person really started it off.
yeah,
But I know they've got tons of people now for all sorts of different kind of positions, and so it's really cool that they're there, they're engaged, and they're really actively trying to make these events better. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. Atlanta was fun. It had its problems,
right,
but to be able to say, okay, we hear you, we understand, and we are taking steps to fix this, and for them to take steps to fix it that were actually good for the community and good for the game were also impressive. It wasn't like you were saying, here's what we're going to do regardless of whether that's good for you or not. It's like, okay, there was problems getting tickets for the prize wall. Sweet, we'll change that. We'll add more tickets for the competitors, or you know make the side events give you more tickets, or I forget exactly what they did, but to make things a little more obtainable. And it wasn't the sense of, oh, I ended the first day and I only have 4 tickets and a
yeah,
hat is 24. It's like, oh, how am I ever going to get that? And I know they want people to feel like they're rewarded for their efforts, regardless of if if they end up in the top 8 or if they wash out after the first day.
yeah,
It's great that we got a Dragonfire, but to be able to say, okay, I get to do side events all day long for the second day, and I get rewarded with all these tickets, for doing well at those, to be able to turn around and take those back. And I think on the Lorecast earlier, I think it was Becky, she was like, I got like exactly the amount of tickets I needed for my Cinderella. And she's like,
yeah,
I literally took the tickets and turned and went to the prize wall. And I was like, that's awesome. That's perfect.
yeah,
That's what you want. You want
yeah.
that level of excitement.
Yeah, and I that was something I was going to bring up is they also bring guests on from the community. Last time they had the Illuminators, this time they had the girls from Live Laugh Lorcana.
Yep.
Um, and it's just the community is amazing. I remember I was talking to Rob again the other day, and he was like, "Oh, I picked up." I hope he told this story on his podcast. I'm gonna feel really bad telling this story. Um, but he was like, "Yeah, he's like someone. I think it was Rochelle. I don't remember. He said it was someone. I think it was Rochelle, and he said they dropped a bottle, and he made a joke about them littering, and he was like, and they made a comment back to him, and he picked it up." and he made a comment. He was like, "That's got to be worth 2 tickets, right?" And she was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "I need 2 more tickets to get my Rapunzel." So, and she just went and grabbed the Rapunzel and gave it to him so he could use his prize tickets for something else. And it was just like, it was
That's
really nice,
awesome.
and it was like, it's just really great to hear that that's what happens in the community, and like that
Yeah.
people are so respecting, because like, as someone in the Pokemon community who's played in a lot of regionals and who is a Pokemon professor, and see how these some of these professors get treated at events, like some of the Pokemon players are very rude to the people who
Yeah.
staff these events, and it's like, it's what's pushed me away from wanting to staff a lot of these events, because I don't want to have to make a ruling and someone get mad at me and call me
Right.
names and all that, like,
Right.
because that's what's happened before, and it's like people get like feisty, and it's like they don't understand
Yep.
that people are just doing what they have to do, and it's like Lorcana, ever since I've been in this community doing as a podcaster and just like as a spectator, it's everyone's been super inviting, and it's like that's kind of like you said, it's kind of the Disney thing, and I think it's kind of that it's a new card game, but also the people
Hmm.
that are big in this community, like Citizens of Lorcana and B Squared and all of them, like in Breezy and Live Laugh Lorcana and the Lumiteers, like they're all amazingly nice people who are willing to talk to anyone. Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
not like how it is with like other games like Pokemon. You try to talk to one of the players that do well and top a lot of events, they want nothing to do with you. Like they're
Right.
just kind of
Right.
like they'll sign things for you and they'll just go like back to ignoring you, and it's just like everyone's super rude about it, and it's like no one wants to be like in that kind of community. And Lorcana just seems very open and inviting, and it's like what I've noticed in a lot of my locals. It's like people aren't people are very inventive, but people also don't take anything. Like there was a league near me that wouldn't give out promo cards. We were all pretty sure they were selling them. And eventually people stopped showing up.
Really?
And like there were a couple people that would still trickle in and they'd give out promos, but like now you go on their Lorcana nights and they have no one that shows up anymore. Like they end up making it they do
Yeah.
Pokemon, Star Wars, and Lorcana, and no one shows up for Lorcana anymore because of how bad they screwed the community. Like they would get
Yep.
a couple, like they got actually it was there the other day. They had both the new playmats, and I was really excited because I have other than set one, I've picked up every single playmat, and I was super excited to get them. I'm like, how much are the playmats? And they're like, oh, it's whatever market price is online. And I was like, nope, never mind, I don't need them, because I'm not going to have you go on eBay and or TCG Player and cherry pick a listing and go, it's this much. Like, you're a
Right.
game
Right.
store. Why are you upping your? I mean, but a lot of stores near me, every single store near me has upped the price on the Lumineers Quest, like jacked it up to 80,
Really?
$90. And my friend was just at Target and sent me a
Wow.
picture. There was like shelves and shelves full of Lumineers Quests at Target,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and it's like it feels bad. I mean, like a lot of stores didn't get a ton of mats, so it was like set three they seemed to get a lot, and now set four they didn't seem to get as many.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
like it just feels bad, especially like that store would get like two mats, they would sell one and then they put the other one in a case, which was kind of cool, but it was like you're now taking away product from people, and especially during the early sets when people wanted to collect stuff, like you kind of took away the stuff because now it's sitting in a case for you,
Right.
and no one can touch it. But when you get new product in, instead of they always say like, oh, we're about the players, it's like, you're not, because you don't like the game, like you don't like how
Yeah.
you
It's
screwed yourself
tough.
with the community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I get them wanting to like, show off stuff and be like, oh, hey, we've got, all this amazing stuff related to Lorcana, right? But in the
Right.
end, like you said, they're there for the players. They're there for, the customers and everything. And it's great that I hear so many stories about people that have such great LGSs to
Oh,
where
100%.
they go, they feel like they're welcome. It's a big community. Everybody gets to hang out. Everybody's treated fairly. Um, but then you do hear the random stories about stuff like that, where they're not as into caring about the players as some are. And it ends up like you were talking about. People can tell, people understand, oh hey, this LGS over here that's 15 minutes down the way,
Right.
they're there, they're welcoming, they're happy to have people there and play and growing the community. But this guy over here is keeping a mat behind the desk in a box.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're gonna move.
Yeah. I mean, it's but like when me and Rob were doing Turn for Two, we approached them just because like we wanted to give them a shout out at the time, because in the beginning they were a good place to get product and play. And
Hmm.
other than the keeping things in a case was a little crappy, like they did their best to try to give us product, even though their product is stupid expensive. They tried their best to give us product. And but I mean that's how it was. I remember spending $200 on a box of set two because stores jacked it up that much because you couldn't
Oh
get it
wow.
anywhere. There was no store around me that would sell it for under that. Um, but it was like we asked them and we went to ask them out, giving them a shout out to make sure they were okay with it. And like we didn't even finish talking to them. We just brought up that we had a podcast. Like, oh no, we don't do that. And they just kind of like shut it down. It was like, we're just trying to be nice and
Really?
give you a shout out. You just kind of jumped down our throats assuming
Huh.
we wanted a sponsorship. It was like, I don't know. That store, I don't like it because of a lot
Yeah.
of the shady stuff they do. But like, it's where I started playing card games, so it sucks because it's like I hate bringing it up, but like it is how I got my start.
Right.
But
Right.
away from TCG, or not away from TCGs, away from TCG stores, August 9th is the official LGS release. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure
I
for
yeah,
set
I think
two,
it's the ninth.
set five. Wow, set five feels really weird to say.
I
It
know it
hasn't even
does,
been a
doesn't
whole
it?
year of Lorcana yet, and we've had five
I
sets in
know.
September. Um, yeah, so we had the Lorecast today. I have the only
Hmm.
the top things I pulled up on here are the Gateway, which we knew about the Gateway for a while from France. I think it was that it got shown off.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And that
Gateway's really
fancy
cool.
booth that they had, that was
Yes.
pretty impressive.
So Gateway's a cool thing. I'm excited for it for people to learn the game. It's a bigger box product, which is right up Ravensburger's alley.
Right.
It's just a good way to learn the game, and I'm excited for it. I can't tell from looking at this picture. It looks like the board is like a hard one of those like black plastic play board game boards, which is really
I
cool.
think so. Yeah.
It
It's
looks
kind of
like, yeah, I
tricky because
assume
I've only seen like 2 or 3 shots of it or something. So
it
I'm
looks like
sure we'll
there's a
see more.
crease
But
down the middle. I can't tell. My thing is, if they're doing that, my guess is I'm not going to say they took this from Pokemon because they didn't, but Pokemon does something similar to this, and I'm guessing
mhm.
they probably would look at that for some kind of inspiration, just to because you can't, inspiration doesn't hurt.
Right. Oh
Um,
yeah. And this is not, Ravensburger, this is not, their forte, right? They do
right.
puzzles and, and other kinds of games, villainous and everything.
Yeah.
A TCG is not exactly the same.
Right.
But you can kind of see like some of the parallels, right?
Yes.
Because
hundred
I mean,
percent.
some of the like the villainous stuff that they have the hard boards, right? I
Yeah.
think so.
For the
And so they're familiar with creating that kind of stuff. It's just adapting the game to it, right?
Yeah, and I never played Villainous, so I guess we'll talk about this. So the Villainous, I don't know if anyone's seen the Target version of Villainous. It was a D100 product with Ursula, Prince John, Maleficent, and Hook. And I picked it up one day and I was playing it, and it's like you play a lot of the cards, and you feel where the Lorcana came from there. Like you see the
Yeah,
inspiration,
yeah.
you understand how they built on it. That product is being remade, I guess. It was a Target exclusive, I think. That product's getting re-released with a exclusive Prince John promo, which I'm with
Hmm.
most of the community. I'm kind of torn. Most of the community is torn. I don't know how I feel about it. If if it's like normal Villainous, where you'll be able to find it on shelves for a while, and the promo doesn't become $50, then it's whatever. It's a different art promo. It's like League Play promos. I'm not too worried about that. If they
Right.
don't print enough of it, then it becomes an issue. But being Ravensburger's forte has been Villainous for the longest time, I don't see that being an issue, so I'm not too concerned with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and they've got like, I mean, there's like 10, 12 different variations of it now or something. I mean, it's
Yeah,
wildly successful, which is
100. Yeah,
great.
they have.
I mean, it's so great for them. And I get trying to do the overlap a little bit, right? Because it is the same IP, so it's not that hard to jump between the two. But I don't know if this particular approach is the right way to do it. I kind of feel like it's more of, you know, um, like the Lorcana community loves alternate art stuff, on these
Right,
cards. And having it be something that's exclusive to buying a villainous, game is
right,
interesting, but it's not as interesting as going out and buying a booster box or going out and
right,
buying a trove or something like that. It's like, okay, I'd buy this whole game that I may or may not play just to get this little piece of it, right? um
right.
and
And I mean,
you know
go
it's
ahead. Sorry.
interesting. but I don't know. I don't know. I think I saw a Twitter poll earlier that was like, are you excited about the villainous crossover thing? And I think last I checked, the majority of the votes were no. It wasn't.
Yeah, that
It
wouldn't
wasn't a
shock me.
huge margin,
Yeah,
but still, it's. I think if you ask the Lorcana community, hey, would you go and buy this villainous to get this stuff? Most people would be like, eh, I'll wait for a
yeah,
single for it, or
right.
try to find it secondhand, because there's going to be a lot of people that are on the villainous side that like that game, because like
Yeah,
I said, it's wildly popular. They'll buy that version and then they'll be like, well, I don't play Lorcana, so what do I do with this?
right.
And then turn around and be like, oh, I see, I can find these people that would pay money
Buy
for this
it.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Facebook love a good time with that because the Facebook community is just the Facebook community. I don't even.
Oh my
That's a
gosh,
whole.
it's a
That's a
whole
whole.
different world. It's crazy.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind it as someone who still has because you were talking about alternate. As someone who still hasn't played the Illumineers quest, so I don't know what's in that Ursula sleeve. My
Mm-hmm.
prediction still is that it, or at least my opinion on it is they should do, like the D100 promos, like how those were like enchanted but in their own style. Like that's what I'm expecting in there. Is that what it will be? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it. I've thankfully avoided spoilers, but like that's what I would expect from it. And it's like after seeing this and like a couple of things that I would lean towards maybe not, but like I don't know. Who knows? Maybe
Yep.
just like people have been finding the Ursula for the set four championships and packs. Maybe that's what's in there. Maybe they're just throwing them out pre
Yeah.
set championships, just throwing them in the sleeves. Um,
Well,
but
and
yeah. So
I'm right. I'm right there with
oh,
you.
go ahead.
Honestly, I bought it when it came out. I pre-ordered it with the rest of my stuff,
Yep.
and I've played it exactly one time, and I have held myself back from opening that envelope, and I have avoided the spoilers at all costs. And fortunately, the community's been really good about it,
Yeah,
at least on Twitter. I can't speak for Facebook because, like I said, whole different world.
I avoid
But
Facebook.
on the Twitter, yeah, yeah, I can't blame you. On the Twitter community, everybody's been really respectful about it,
Yeah,
and it's been so great to not be like, "Oh my gosh, don't don't look, don't look." I think I saw one, and it was like, oh, this card, they like described it a little bit or something, but it wasn't like super detailed. But then they were nice enough to put the spoiler tag on it, or
right.
like whatever Twitter does, the not safe for work or
Censored
whatever they
or
call it,
thing.
censored, yeah. And so it was like, okay, you can read and you can say, oh, this is a crazy card or whatever, but you don't have to see it, which is
Right.
nice and really respectful. And I appreciate everybody in the community for really being nice about that. There's probably some people that I don't follow or that are not in my, my stream that have done it, but thankfully haven't come across any of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I guess we talked about set five already, but we haven't really mentioned. So set five is called Evolving, or sorry, Shimmering Skies. Wrong game. I had to make that joke because every time I see it, I think of Evolving Skies. I hope it
yep,
doesn't
I
turn
got the
into Evolving
reference.
Skies because Evolving Skies was bad for the Pokemon community. It was also a COVID
Oh no.
issue, but I really hope it was just everything so expensive in that set, and it was so hard to find because of COVID. And that was when everyone on YouTube
Okay.
was like, "Oh, let's do booster box breaks." So like, booster boxes of that could probably get like 3 to 4 boxes of Lorcana. They're like almost $1,000 a piece, so it's wild.
Holy crap. Wow.
But Shimmering Skies. So the three main character or key characters on the box are Maui, Donald Duck,
Mhm.
and Vanellope Von Schweet. Finally, with Wreck-It Ralph,
Yes.
and then
So glad we're getting more Wreck-It Ralph.
they also have Scar and Elsa on the bottom, which are like their five kind of main characters. So on the Trove packaging looks a lot. Actually, looks really nice. I
Mhm.
like how the Trove looks this time. They have the three Donald, Vanellope, and Maui, and the starter decks are Emerald, Steel, and Amethyst Ruby, being
Mhm.
Scar and Kronk, and Elsa and Wreck-It Ralph, which is again Wreck-It Ralph. Glad to see Wreck-It Ralph.
Yep, yep.
The two playmats we have are Encanto, which is We're All Family, which is a
Mhm.
beautiful playmat. We also have
It is.
Belle, the Belle from set three, the silver rare that I can't think of the name of, but the really pretty one with the flowers.
Sorceress something? I kind of
Sure,
forget
yeah, something
offhand.
like
I mean, I know it, I just
that. Yeah, I was just saying, you know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna look it up in the
Yeah.
app while I'm talking. Um, And then deck boxes will be the Steel Tiana that I also don't know the name of. Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, which was in the
Mhm.
first starter deck. Same with those would be the sleeves. Oh no, the Encanto playmat sold out on Best Buy. It's in my cart too. I was gonna buy it.
Ah, I
Oh,
pre-ordered mine.
oh,
I'm a big Encanto fan. I when I
dang
saw that the
it!
Madrigals were getting their starter deck this time, I was like, yes, finally I can get this stuff going, and I started trying to brew a deck with all that, and there's only really like two or three decent cards out of it. But I'm happy. That was the other Enchanted that I was hoping to pull the
Yes,
the the family one from this set.
yeah,
I did end up getting. We don't talk about Bruno Enchanted, which is nice, but I love the style of the family one. And so
yes.
like I said, I pre-ordered that mat already. So
I was
um,
gonna pre-order it. Very disappointed it already sold out, but it sat in stock long enough that I assume I'll be able to hopefully find it or close to release date. But that's also a long time from now. The
yeah,
Bell is Accomplished Mystic. That is the
that's the
Bell.
one. Yes, that mat is
Uh,
beautiful.
yeah, and I
I think
think thankfully it'll be the one that people are chasing over the Encanto one, even though I like the
yep.
Encanto one a little more. Which will be good because that means I'll be able to pick up the Encanto one.
Yep. Yeah, the when we were watching it, the watch party earlier with B squared and everybody, I was like, ooh, how nice would it be to have the Bell Accomplished Mystic playmat foiled? I was like, oh,
Ooh,
that would be gorgeous. I,
I'd
I
love
could
if
see
they
that being
started.
on a prize wall, but yeah, I don't think we'll get it, but it would be really cool.
No, it would be really cool. I love foils. But so speaking of, I guess this is at the top of my feed, so we're gonna talk about this because every time I see this card, I think of my friend. So I have a friend named Dave.
Hmm.
He is Good Kid Gaming on Twitch. I'll give him a little shout out. He is a huge Donald Duck fan. He's also a huge Disney fan. He used to work at Disney, and I went there with him actually when I went to Orlando Regionals. We went to Animal Kingdom, and he knew all the stops, and I had a great
Okay,
time with him, even though I was sick.
nice.
Um, this is someone tweeted from Lorcana Talks. Are there any characters of 3 Disney Lorcana legendary cards and 0 enchanteds for Donald Duck's 90th? So we have a 5 cost Donald Duck,
Mhm.
inkable 3/6 Pie Slinger, which I always think of my friend because he is a chef currently. Um,
Okay,
or
okay.
he's always been a chef, but he is a chef for a really nice steak restaurant in the area, and he loves Donald. So to me, this is like the Dave card. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get that," and uses my V Star marker and Pokemon. I'm like, "Hey, Dave, we've had 3 legendaries and there's been no enchanteds. This might be one, so have fun shilling that money out." But it's a
Yeah,
4 cost.
yeah.
You shift 4. It's a Floodborn Hero Knight. His first ability is Humble Pie. When you play this character, if you use Shift to play him, each opponent loses 2 lore. And Raging Duck, while an opponent has 10 or more lore, this character gets 6+ strength. I think this card is crazy. um, sure, he only turns for 1, but that's not your purpose of him. You want to shift him to make your opponent lose 2,
Right.
and late enough in the game, you just want to be swinging at things for 9.
Hmm.
Because if you play, the common Donald Duck that I think is a 2 or 3 cost, and you shift this, and they have 10 lore, it's a better Maui. Even if you just play it,
Yep.
it's a better Maui. It doesn't have rush, but if you shift it, it has rush essentially. Like
Yep.
nine
That's
six
true
is
because it's already
crazy.
dried. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You can do some serious damage before he gets taken out too.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. So I'm really excited to see where that goes with him. He just looks really fun to me. What
I
else?
love
There's
the
a
art
lot
on
of
it too. Donald with
yes, the
the,
art's
the
amazing.
protecting pie plate or whatever that is on the front. It's so great.
I also like how the art, like you can see them. It looks like meatballs are flying off the
Hmm.
screen or
Yeah.
screen,
Yeah.
off
They're a
the
little
card. I
blurry
really
in the
like when they
front.
reach out.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's
you can
kind
always
of
see. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and that it's kind of overlapping, like the O and the N on his name. Like it
Yes,
really is like a separate layer on top of the actual card is really cool.
and you can always see behind the text like a little bit of the extended art, but it's always really cool to see the art extend onto the borders of the card.
Hmm.
Um, so I know we got a lot of good Wreck It Ralph stuff.
Hmm.
Just a lot of Wreck-It Ralph cards. We got a lot of. I'm trying to find the list of cards, and I don't know where to
Yeah,
go.
somebody had a really good list of them, and I'm not sure where it was. I'm kind of scrolling
Someone's.
through Twitter to to
That's
see catch
also
the
what I'm doing. Is
screenshots.
I'm like kind of looking because I thought I'd find something, and I just didn't. Actually, I have some pictures of my phone from my friend Dom, so I should probably just go there and
Well, we
check.
got a lot
We had a
of
lot of
like racers
yeah.
from Wreck-It
We had a lot
Ralph.
of uh, Tafia cards. Why were there so
Hmm.
many of them? Like I don't mind, but I swear there were like so many of them. Or other screenshots. I'm like, why aren't they coming up as photos? Um, yeah, there were just so many. I remember there were like 3 or 4 of just her. Oh,
Yeah,
but I
I
guess we can
think.
talk about this first because this is another thing Twitter is loving right now. Is Merlin an actual visionary? 6
Ah,
cost
yes.
uninkable, 3/7. Everyone loves that card. Floodbore Mentor Sorcerer. Shifts for 5, turns for 2. Great stats, by the way. When you play this character, if you use shift to play him, you might search your deck for a card, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So for me, for Pokemon, that is just quick search from Pidgeot, which is search your deck for a card, although that's an ability you can use every
Hmm.
turn. You can only use this once. Um, but yeah, that's wild. This is the
Yeah,
first, to my knowledge, fully search your deck for a card, put it in hand.
right. It's not like the Madrigals where it's find a Madrigal card and put it on the top of
Right.
your deck. Um, I like the idea of this card. I
Yeah.
like that, you can shift it in on 5, which is a turn early, which, is not great. Most of the other shifts it's like 2 turns early or something. He's got a lot of beef to him with the 7.
Yep.
And quest for 2 and everything.
Of course.
But I don't know in practical play how much you'll actually see.
I agree. I think
Just
there's
especially with the match, the targets for shifting.
yeah,
There's so many other things you can do with those targets, except for like squirrel or something.
yeah.
The other ones, you need them like for like bouncing
To
stuff
go
around and
and yeah,
everything, and yeah, they're just so useful that I don't know how much this is actually going to get used. Now, we could, get 2 weeks into, the next set and it just be absolutely meta breaking,
yeah,
kind of thing where somebody figures out exactly how to use this perfectly. Um, but that 6 cost uninkable is it's rough. It really is. It's tough.
yeah.
But I get it, right? I mean, you don't want something that's this powerful to be able to find any card you want. You
Right.
have your Merlin out, you shift this thing on top of it, you play it, you go find, whatever you need. You go find, a whole new world, or, what's the location killer? Um, the Loncane Zeus. You go
Yes.
find that in your deck, and he can sing both of them. So he can just do
Yeah.
it right away, which is crazy, but you have to get to that point, which is always
Right.
tricky. There's a lot of combos out there that it's really like it would be amazing if it worked, and it might work once out of 100 matches, and that's only if the person you're playing against like isn't paying attention, or you
Right.
know hasn't been following along with meta or anything like that. um and I kind of feel like he's kind of in that category right now. I'm very prepared to eat my words, after set 5 comes out, though.
Yeah. So I found the Wreck-It Ralph card. So there are 3 Tafia cards. There is
Hmm.
a 1 cost, 2 cost, and a 4 cost.
Hmm.
The 1 cost is a 1 cost inkable 1/2. Turns for or quests for 1. When you play this character, you have a location in play. Each opponent loses 1 lore. The 2 cost, the 2 cost inkable 2/2 that quests for 2, which is a pretty good stat line. And the
Hmm.
4 cost, they're all inkable, by the way. I don't think I said that with the last one. 4 cost inkable 3/3 turns for request for 1. Shift 2, once per turn when this character moves to a location, gain 2 lore. So
Huh.
they're all pretty
Okay.
cool. I'm shocked at 3 of them. We also have Turbo, 2 cost, uninkable Turbo, 2/3, Turbo Royal Hack. He quests for 1. He has Rush. He has Game Jump as his ability. It also counts as being named King Candy for shift, basically saying
Right,
we will
which is
avenge you with your
interesting.
King Candy card.
Yep.
We have Rance's Fludgerbug. Oh God, the Reese's peanut butter girl. And I'm
Right,
going to
right.
butcher her name and say something I don't want to say or something. I don't know. 4 cost, 4 turns for one. It's cool. I mean, it's just a 4 cost that hits things. If there's a cool shift
Yeah.
for it,
It's pretty standard. Yeah. Yeah.
we have a Vanellope. There is another Vanellope, right? Yes, because I looked at it
Yeah, yeah, there's
first.
two of them. Yeah,
There's
I
two of
think.
them. I only see one in this list. It's the 4 cost
Oh.
uninkable random roster racer 3/3 that quests for 2 has
Oh.
rush. When you play this character, she gains evasive till the start of your next turn.
I thought there was another one, huh? Maybe
I
I
do
was just
too. I
seeing the
don't know
same
if
one.
it might have just been somewhere else. And then
Yeah.
there's Snowana Rainbow, which is the snow cone girl, two
Mhm.
four. She's rush. She's 3 cost on inkable. They're all pretty cool. I think obviously there's the Ralph as well. We don't have to go over every single card, but I do think there will be a lot of fun Wreck It Ralph decks that come out, and I'm very excited for
Mhm.
that because I liked Wreck It Ralph when it came out in theaters, and I like Wreck It Ralph now that it's a movie or has a second movie and now is in the game.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I'm really glad that they brought that in. I was wondering, I mean, really honestly, we got that other card so long ago that so long ago, like it was, years. We knew it was coming eventually. I'm really glad that they decided to introduce these and to introduce that new, type, right? The racer type, which is
Right.
kind of interesting. I have to wonder, maybe not in this set, maybe they introduce more racer types in future sets, and then there's, songs that come with it, or
Right.
special items or something, like vehicle upgrades, or who knows what they could do in the future. But
Yeah.
um, it's really interesting to see that, and it's not like a whole new mechanic, right? So we got, locations was a massive one in that set. And then this latest one, we got like the sing together and some minor tweaks to shifting, but it wasn't anything huge. I'm wondering if we'll see anything new in set 5 like that, or if it's going to be like a tweak on top of current mechanics.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if we get some kind of item card. I mean, we have items, but like attachable items
Hmm.
that do
Yeah.
things for racers, like they give them kind of like how locations work, where you can pay to move them somewhere.
Right.
That you'll be able to like pay to uh, add it to them, and they get like
Like
plus
a
two
install
something.
cost or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll kind of be like how Magic has their cost to play something or to attach because like Pokemon's you just play it onto your card, but you can only have one. For
Hmm.
Lorcana, I feel like you'll have to pay to play it onto that character, or it'll be like specific to characters. Like they'll probably start by making them very character specific, which
Yeah.
is my
Yeah. I
guess,
could
which
see
will be
that.
fine. Um, but yeah, I think that'd be very interesting just to see something, even if it just gives you like a +2, +0, or gives you an extra lore when you turn, or even for
Right.
like I know Star Wars has ones you can do that like take away things. So like some of them don't allow you to attack. They just have to kind of sit there.
Hmm.
Or like they can't like so some of them would be maybe like it gives it reckless. Like you already have cards that give it reckless, but it would be like permanently, or it could take away reckless. So like you could take away reckless from something that you don't want to have reckless anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah, that could be
It's just
interesting.
it's an interesting concept that they could play around with. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Oh yeah, there's lots of possibilities, and and I'm glad that it hasn't been where it's like every set we get a major mechanic change.
Yes.
Now I say that now we haven't seen all of set 5, but I
Right.
would think that if they were going to make a change like that, they would have said something about it in the Lorecast.
I agree.
So I'm hoping that it kind of settles down a little bit, and then maybe set 6 they introduce something.
Yeah.
Like the major change with locations, they did in the previous set, and kind of let it
Right.
sit for a little bit and marinate, and then
Yeah.
um, I'll be interested to see too if there's anything in 5 that because locations are great, right? Some of them,
Right.
the majority of them are just not played, you know.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's because there's just still stuff coming that's going to
Yeah,
make them more playable. Just little additions. An item that makes it easier to move players around. I know we've got
yeah,
Treasure Planet that reduces the move cost, but other things like that that can incentivize the use of locations. And I'm sure
right,
we're going to get some new locations. They already talked about one in the Lorecast, Wreck It Ralph,
right.
conveniently. One location from there. So I'm really interested to see what some of the other ones end up being.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see what else they do with locations. I mean, I thought Snuggly Duckling was going to be pretty powerful, and I don't really see it
Hmm.
played yet. But I mean, we really don't know a lot of this new meta. I
Right.
mean, I think like Snuggly Duckling is huge for Maui because whatever character with three or more challenges another character, while here gains one. If they have six or more, they gain three. So with Maui, you're gaining three and challenging, which is I think is huge. But a lot of people don't
Hmm.
see it. It's like obviously I'm missing something because people aren't playing it. So something's wrong or someone really a lot of people just really haven't read the card.
Well, and it's
Um,
interesting too that there's so many, like I said, there's so many different combinations out there that are like they're really great combos, but
yeah,
because of how the meta sits, you just can't use them. You
right.
can't get there. When you play, you can't set it up correctly. If you try to set it up, somebody's like, "Oh, well, nope, I know it's coming. I'm going to knock
Yeah,
that out pretty quick." And there's just so many other plays right now that are just they're just stronger
yeah,
overall. Now stuff like that, with Maui and everything, it's a super strong play. It's just getting to it, right?
right. And that's the issue.
Yeah,
But yeah, with that, thank you for being on today. I had an amazing conversation with you.
yeah,
It was
yeah. Of
great to
course.
have
Thanks
you
for having
here.
me.
Of course. Real quick before you go, let everyone know where they can find you on social media, and I will link your stuff down below as well in the
Okay,
description of the
perfect.
podcast.
Yeah, so you can find me personally on Twitter, questing for lore with the number four in there. Um, and the show that I run, Lorcana Chats, you can actually find that at lorcanachats.com. I do weekly episodes, interviews with members of the community, other content creators, just various people, in the community, the growing community, so that I'm not going to
Yes.
run out of people to talk to, which is nice. Um, but yeah, you can find that over on lorcanachats.com. I do YouTube videos primarily, but I also release it as a podcast. So you can go to podcast.lorcanachats.com if that's your preferred method for consuming this kind of content. Um, and I think that's it. If you ever want to
Yep.
reach out to me, you can hit me up at questingforlord at gmail.com.
Yeah.
I am always happy to get questions or suggestions about the show or anything like that.
Yeah. So, as someone who has listened to a lot of his show, guys, go watch a couple episodes. They are amazing. Um,
Appreciate it.
but yeah, thank you so much for being on, and everyone have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.